Hey everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, so we're gonna do some more comics this time. Sorry, excuse me. This time we're gonna take a look at the first six issues of Concrete, um, written and drawn by Paul Chadwick. It's published by Dark Horse, starting in 1987. The series was met with critical acclaim and a loyal following. It's won Eisner and Harvey Awards back in '88 and '89. While not a super smash blockbuster hit, Concrete did carve out an interesting niche for itself during the indie comics boom of the '80s. So what do we got here? We got issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5, and issue 6. Okay, so we're going to back up a little bit. So hang on with me. Okay, so we're going to, excuse me, we're going to back up a little bit. So, um, sorry, excuse me. So, Dark Horse is an independent comic book company that was started around 1987. They've since become one of the more prominent small publishers in the industry. They've had a reasonable amount of success with a combination of licensed IPs and creator-owned comics. Indie comics in the 80s. There were, well, let's put it this way: other comics from DC and Marvel, like The Dark Knight, Watchmen, X-Men, in the local comic shops. We were having a real indie boom. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were big hits, and on the more critical side, we have things like Love and Rockets. This helped expand what some readers would accept in our mainstream comics, as the industry had gotten narrower in the 70s and 80s. It had become dominated by superheroes from the big two. Artist Paul Chadwick has a long history of working in comics in Hollywood. He's done storyboard work for movies from Disney, Lucasfilms, and Warner Brothers, and he's done some Marvel and DC work, but he's mostly known for his creator-owned work here with Concrete. So let's see here now. Okay, so Concrete is Ronald Lithgow. Sorry, excuse me. He's Ronald Lithgow, a former speechwriter that was captured by aliens and put into a concrete armor as part of an experiment. He returns to Earth, and the U.S. government invents a cover story that he's a soldier in a cyborg body. So he wants to use his powers for good. So he goes around the country and he helps people in different small ways. So over these early issues, we get several smaller stories that are essentially one and done tales. Concrete saving some miners, Concrete works as a bodyguard for a pop star, Concrete helping on a family farm, a lot of testing, exploring of Concrete's powers with an emphasis on making it seem plausible, including having to sit on things like extra sturdy furniture, learning what he can and cannot eat. We get Concrete dealing with publicity and fame. So okay, so the stories contain action and suspense, but not tons of violence, at least not in the stereotypical superhero comic way. There's not a lot of supervillain punch ups, even though there is a fight with bad guys. When there is a fight with bad guys, it's more grounded and represented, or sort of presented as the climax to a more nuanced plot. A slugfest in a mighty Marvel manner is never really the main selling point. I'd say the main selling point is probably human connections. The stories explore Concrete's relationships with the outside world, Concrete's relationship with his best friend, his relationships with the government, his would-be relationship with his girlfriend. The best characterization is probably that of Concrete. Ronald's portrayed as a well-rounded and well-meaning man. I could easily see other creators going in a more cliche route and representing Concrete as this tortured soul haunted by his condition, or focusing on the body horror or science fiction aspects of the premise. Chadwick sidesteps the self pity angle and has Concrete trying to make the best of his situation. Not only that, he helps to seek out other people in the world in a way that seems, at least on the surface, more meaningful than just fighting crime. So Larry Monroe is his best friend. He's a wannabe novelist and kind of a confidant. He provides a certain amount of levity without turning into a complete comedy relief character. Larry provides some common sense and is an interesting, friendly foil for Ron to play off to / respond to. Dr. Maureen Vonnegut She has interesting premise as a scientist who's helping Concrete discover his powers and helping him navigate his condition in the world. Although through their literal closeness, Concrete begins to develop feelings for her. However, while she isn't a bad character, her presentation in these early issues seems a little bit underdevelopment. She's mainly just there to be the unrequited love interest. I'd say the overall tone is pretty lighthearted and is sometimes poignant. Concrete was coming out during the height of the grim and gritty era in comics, so there's a lot of warm humor that contrasts with the edgy and cynical tone of many comics that were on the stands at the time. Most of it comes from the interactions of the characters rather than snarky one-liners, though. So let's look at some of the art. Okay, so the art is in black and white. Chadwick provides solid layouts. He draws with heavy lines and includes nice midtones and shades of gray. Chadwick also does a good job with figure work and details. I also like the fact that he can draw clothes well as realistic scenery and backgrounds. So here I'm just going to show you some of the interiors, just kind of at random here. So let's just do this. Let's just open up some pages. Here you can see, oops, you can see how he lays out his pages. You can see the big contrasts between the lights and darks and, solid blacks and gray tones and stuff. All right. Like I said, uh, convincing sceneries and things. Okay, here's something here. Getting more good stuff for the contrast there. All right. This one's here where he's bodyguarding for the pop star who kind of seems like he's a blend of Michael Jackson and Prince with a little David Bowie probably thrown in there. Okay. This is from the Fame issue. You can see the one guy seems to be modeled on Johnny Carlson. But again, here we go. Realistic drawings of guys wearing clothes. And it seems like a mundane thing to point out, but the fact of the matter is, at one point we're getting like these '90s guys. Not to pick up somebody like Rob Liefeld or whatever, but it's just the first person that comes to mind. People make jokes about his pouches and his feet and stuff like that. But you see some of these comics where people are just. I saw one comic. It was either him or one of the, or I'm pretty sure it was him. Was drawing a guy wearing a suit. And it was just so obvious that that Rob just didn't take a picture of like a real guy wearing a suit. The way that this person's pants fit on his supposed legs, it's just it was just obvious that he learned to draw just from copying superheroes and just superheroes. You know what I mean? So when it came to drawing regular people, it was just kind of a mess. And here, let's show you something else here. A few other things here. So Bubba Pow. All right. Get a nice little loft office here or whatever that is. Okay. Oh, and hey, here's some of the back covers here. These look pretty nice. They also kind of served as they're nice as pinups, but they're also, excuse me, they're also kind of previews of what's coming up in the next issue. What's coming up in the next issue. All right. Okay, so moving along then. Okay, so to wrap up, Concrete by Paul Chadwick is a tight, well written humanitarian view of superheroes. The emphasis is on character and personality as opposed to violence and spectacle. Ron or Concrete is a well rounded and fleshed out character. It's full of well drawn, solid art. The comic moves at a casual pace. Overall, it's pretty heartfelt title. Not particularly avant garde, but a welcome change of pace from the typical superhero comics, which at the time were turning more and more gritty. So what we have here is not a grand epic, but a loose collection of heartfelt and meaningful tales. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. You guys have a great day.